Is it supposed to be like that tomorrow? That is our...
Is there a date on there?
3/8... What does it say?
3/8/21?
Yeah, that's me again. That is for tomorrow.
That's next year.
I'm having...
That's tomorrow.
We're having service again tomorrow, too. So you're all welcome to come back. I'll be here. Yeah, it's you've probably, if anybody has watched any of these, you've noticed that I'm not my attention to detail is not the best. I get confused pretty easily.
You need it in though, Mike?
That'd be great, thank you.
Good morning.
But I'm flattered that you actually read the graphic on it. I don't think most people pay any attention to it. Yeah, I need to put it bigger letters.
Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Where'd Mike go? Oh, there he is.
Here's one for you, Janet.
We talking about board. This month we're going to have a board meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Coming right up.
Yeah.
Third Tuesday.
Are we going to try and do it here?
Let's do it here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if we do distance and everything else.
Yeah, we just have to I'll turn on the heat a little bit earlier, because we need to meet upstairs.
Okay.
Jeanette comes. Okay. I talked to, actually talked and heard from her earlier this week. Have you heard from her?
No, I haven't.
She is, I encourage that. I said, well, what? And she said, well, look for you to like myself. So good news.
We cut that out because of COVID.
I think there's been a fall.
Yeah, right, okay.
Sometimes somebody will bring, a, donut or something, but I don't know that we have any this week.
There's actually 2 left. We can get a knife and cut them up. We can divide the loaves and fishes, or maybe they'll multiply.
Oh, the 7-day-olds.
No, actually, they're 14-day-old now because they
Oh.
were day old.
I had mine last week when I went home and it was good shape, but I'm not
Yes.
sure I'll join you this week.
Well, if you put that much sugar in anything, it stays for weeks, literally weeks.
Hot skills.
And with sugar and powdered sugar on the outside, even if it's a little stiff, I'll soldier through. So we can get a knife and divide it up. So if we want to do loaves of fishes. So. Love that last day. Welcome to First Universalist Church of New Madison. This bright, sunny, almost a spring day, March 7th, not the 8th, as was pointed out. I'm going to do the welcome first, and then we'll proceed on through. This is Be Here in This Moment by Chip Roush. We are about to enter sacred time. We are about to make this time and this place sacred by our presence and our intentions. I invite us to turn down the volumes on our fears, to remove our masks, and to loosen the armor around our hearts. That's figuratively, keep your masks on. The mask he's referring to is the mask you put in front of people to prevent them from knowing your true feelings. We want you to be true and authentic when you're here today. Do not take my word for it. Do it as slowly as you need to. If you take a little risk with these good people, you may find that they have the same human needs as you do. Breathe. Let go of the expectations placed on you by others and those they taught you to place on yourself. Drop the guilt and the shame, not to shirk accountability, but to be an honest expectation of the possibilities of forgiveness. Let go of the thing you said the other day. Let go of the thing you dread next week. Be here in this moment. Breathe. Okay, if we're all centered, let's go. Announcements. Anybody have announcements? I have a few. Derek will be here next Sunday. He was here a couple weeks ago, and I think people really enjoyed his presentation. He'll be with us at least, hopefully, once a month as we proceed. And keep in mind, we're trying to figure out a way to work with El Dorado as a companion or a sister church to see if we can accomplish a little more with our diminished numbers. Time change, we've been assured by Kenny, it's next week. So we'll be here early and late. If you have to show up at the wrong time, we'll still be here. Board meeting, we're planning the third Tuesday of this month. We're going to try it in person this time. Anybody's welcome to attend. Of course, you have to follow protocols. You have to wear a mask. The chairs will be all spread out. We're trying to have snacks, and I may have them 6 feet apart. I don't know about that. We'll figure something out. And we're going to talk about an idea I think they started in El Dorado and Lou is doing for outreach about doing planters or plantings for our homebound people or the people who are not able to attend. Something along the line, we'll buy some plants or seeds and take a planter with the potting soil and put everything together and water it, and then hopefully that will give these people some impetus to step out on the porch or the patio or the front yard and think about us and think about the community they belong to and the sharing that takes place. This is the first Sunday of the month, so the fish platter is down there if you want to throw something in for that. Prelude, please. And Rick says thank you as time goes by. Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, and what a coincidence, Humphrey Bogart will show up later today at the end of the service. You can be watching for that. Our slide theme for this week, it's not mountains. I know you know I like mountains. It's barns, because you know I like barns even better. This is a Western barn. Every barn from every area of the country has a different kind of theme or a different thing that they adapt to the environment. These barns are used to some really tough weather, and you can see they're built of logs at the bottom because of the scarcity of building materials out west. Okay, chalice lighting. And let's go to... I missed this one, I should have changed before. Let me do this barn. The history of this barn, you've seen these. This is a Midwestern barn, very common around here, a silo. It's a bank barn. You see the bank on the side, so you can take the fodder, the hay or haylage or whatever you're storing, straw, right up into the hay mound. You don't have to lift it up, you can drive right into it. And of particular interest is the little building on the side. When they built the barn originally, everybody milked 2 or 3 cows, and they just milked them into a bucket and took it into the house and filtered it and sold it. As time went along and the farmers started to sell their milk, they had to have milk cans and big tubs, concrete tubs of cold water to cool the milk in. So they actually built these little milk houses on the end of the barn to store that in. As time moved along, they turned into bulk tanks and commercial farming, and they still have a little milk house, although it's not so little anymore, built on the end. So that's a Midwestern barn. And then we go to the New England or Northeastern type barn. They came, and this was a tradition earlier from Europe, where they built their barns connected to their houses, basically in cold weather or really inclement weather. You don't have to go outside. You can go from the house through the garage right into the barn. One of the reasons Midwestern farmers didn't do that was if one thing caught on fire, everything burned down. So in the Midwest, it was, I'd rather take a rope and run it from the house to the barn rather than have my barn catch on fire and burn my house down. So everybody makes their own choices. Chalice lighting. I'm running out of preformed stuff, so I'm going to start giving you stuff that I do. So please forgive the quality. When you leave the house in midwinter sub-zero cold, the snow crunches underfoot. You check through the darkness, reassured to see again the milk house light, indicating the bulk tank is powered on and those hundreds of gallons of stored milk are still cool. That is your income. The lights flick on in the freestall barn, and the cows, already alert, rise wreathed in steam as their warm, damp bellies yield to the biting cold. As they line up, waiting for the whoosh of the milkers, the day begins along with the dawn. As the light of the chalice flickers in fewer and fewer congregations across the land, so the light of family farmsteads winks out under the relentless pressure of progress. And I'm a dairy farmer. So, opening hymn is 57, right? In your hymnal. beautiful, the March of Days. That's a tremendous song and fits right in as the seasons come and go. The affirmation, we've done this one before, but I think it's still appropriate. Blessings on those staying home, by Linda Barnes. A heart carved into the trunk of a tree, colored in red, we're staying home. Love has never asked this of us before. We're staying home. This is our gift to humanity. Let us wish each other well. For those staying home alone, I offer you this blessing. May you grow a deeper understanding of your own worth. Dear one, leaven the aloneness with gentle care, for this too shall pass. May you be blessed with a peace and serenity. May you find the courage to reach out to hear another's voice and to remember that others need you too. May you be well. For those staying home together, I offer you this blessing. May you find moments of patience and grace in your relations. May you offer each other enough time apart, reassurance, and space enough to cry, to safely rage, for this too shall pass. Then let peace come again into your home. May you see one another's whole self as a gift. May you be well. For those working from home, I offer you this blessing. May you remember to take breaks. May you find the means to relish your imperfection and the imperfection of others as evidence of our shared humanity. You are enough even when there isn't enough. Make order in your days, then let it go. May you be well. For those staying home with children, I offer you this blessing. May you find humor and compassion in your days. There will be a learning of a different kind, deeper no doubt, unexpected for sure. May there be patience and forgiveness again and again and again. For this too shall pass. May you all remember the deep love that brought your family into being. May there be peace and understanding in your home. May you be well. May we be met well. May it be so. All right. You've probably seen a few of these around barns. They came in kind of just past the turn of the century with the technological improvements. The idea was they're much more efficient. They're efficient in the use of space. They're also efficient in the production of material. They have the bank where they put the material up into the loft, but the loft is in the center and all the livestock is arrayed around the outside. So the center area is a work area, and you can go around and feed. Instead of having to drag it down a trough, you can just go around in a circle and drop the feed into the manger. They're kind of complicated to build. There's a lot of specialized labor, which is why you don't see round barns anymore. Right now, everything is square and easy to put up. But at the time, they were pretty incredible. Okay, children's story. Stephanie's Ponytail. And some of you might have heard of this story, and I read it to the kids earlier because they got here early, so I got to show them the pictures. One day, Stephanie went to her mom and said, "None of the kids in my class have a ponytail. I want a nice ponytail coming right out the back." So Stephanie's mom gave her a nice ponytail coming right out the back. When Stephanie went to school, the other kids looked at her and said, "Ugly, ugly, very ugly." Stephanie said, "It's my ponytail and I like it." Just like kids always are. The next morning when Stephanie went to school, all the other girls had ponytails coming out the back. Stephanie looked at them and said, "You are a bunch of copycats. You just do whatever I do. You don't have a brain in your heads." The next morning, the mom said, "Stephanie, would you like a ponytail coming out the back?" And Stephanie said, "No." "Then that's that," said her mom. "The only place you can do ponytails." "No, it's not," said Stephanie. "I want one coming out the side just above my ear." Very strange, said the mom. Are you sure that's what you want? Yes, said Stephanie. So her mom gave Stephanie a nice ponytail coming out above her ear. When she went to school, all the other kids saw her and said, "Oh, ugly, ugly, very ugly." And Stephanie said, "It's my ponytail and I like it." The next morning when Stephanie came to school, all the girls and even some of the boys had nice ponytails coming out above their ears. The next morning, Mom said, "Stephanie, would you like a ponytail coming out the back?" And Stephanie said, "No." "Would you like one coming out the side?" "No." "Then that's that," said her mom. "There is no other place you can do ponytails." This is Stephanie. "Yes, there is," said Stephanie. "I want one coming out the top of my head like a tree." "That's very, very strange," said her mom. "Are you sure that's what you want?" "Yes," said Stephanie. So she has a ponytail coming straight out the top of her head. So her mom gave Stephanie a nice ponytail coming out the top of her head like a tree. When Stephanie went to school, the other kids saw her and said, "Oh, ugly." Stephanie said, "It's my ponytail and I like it." The next day, guess what? All the girls and all the boys had ponytails coming out the top of their heads. It looked like broccoli was growing out of their heads. The next morning, Mom said, "Stephanie, would you like a ponytail coming out the back?" "No," said Stephanie. "The side? No. The top? No." "Then that's definitely it. There is no other place you can do a ponytail." "Yes, there is," said Stephanie. "I want one coming out the front and hanging down over my nose." "But nobody will know if you are coming or going," her mom said. "Are you sure that's what you want?" Stephanie said yes. So her mom gave Stephanie a nice ponytail coming out the front. On the way to school, she bumped into 4 trees, 3 cars, 2 houses, and 1 principal. When she finally got to her class, the other kids saw her and said, "Ugly, very ugly." Stephanie said, "It's my ponytail and I like it." The next day, all the girls and all of the boys, even the teacher, had ponytails coming out the front and hanging down in front of their noses. None of them could see where they were going. They bumped into the desks, they bumped into each other, they bumped into the walls, and by mistake, 3 girls went into the boys' bathroom. And this was before they had gender-neutral bathrooms. Stephanie yelled, "You are a bunch of brainless copycats. You do whatever I do. When I come tomorrow, I am going to have shaved my head." The first person to come the next day was the teacher. She had shaved her head and she was bald. The next to come were the boys. They had shaved their heads and they were bald. Next were the girls. Even the girls had shaved their heads. The last person to come was Stephanie, and she had a nice little ponytail coming out the back of her head. And everybody chased Stephanie. So the moral of the story is, exactly, don't be a copycat. Just because everybody else does it does not mean you have to do it. And when they used to say, if somebody jumped off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff? I think it's more meaningful. If they shaved their head, would you shave your head? No, because it'll happen to you by accident as you get older anyway. Okay. Joys and concerns. Virus is still going on. People are getting their vaccinations. I think most people have had the first. I've had my second. My wife has had her second. It takes about 10 days for that to actually take effect. But actually, we do not change our practices anyway. We still wear masks. I still wear safety glasses when I go to Kroger or Walmart or any place where there's crowds of people. Even if you don't get sick, you can have a minor infection and you can pass it on to other people. So the idea is think of other people, continue to wear your mask, continue to wash your hands, continue to keep your distance. I don't think, and the projections I've heard, is at least the end of 2021 and possibly into 2022 before, if we get enough people vaccinated and enough people hopefully quit refusing to get vaccinated, and even worse, refusing to wear masks, we will get what they call herd immunity, so we will be safe from this. Always remember there are variants now. Brazil, where the Bolsonaro, the premier, the president, has refused to do anything about this. The death rate is rampant there. The infection rate is rampant. They don't provide any protection. They don't provide masks. There's no mask law down there. They are creating variants. Whenever you have a virus or any kind of organism that is run free in an area, it multiplies and changes itself. And if it happens to change into something that's resistant to our vaccines, then we're right back where we started. So let's get ahead of this before it gets ahead of us. Any other joys and concerns?
Just mentioned, I believe was it Vernon Jordan who passed away this past week?
Yes.
Vernon Jordan, a phenomenal leader, civil rights pioneer, and maybe light a candle in honor of Vernon Jordan and his service to our country.
A candle for Vernon Jordan, a candle for the virus. And I come from Auburn, Indiana, which is just north of Fort Wayne. Vernon Jordan was shot in Fort Wayne. He gave a presentation at the NAACP and was going back to his hotel, and somebody tried to assassinate him. So that was pretty incredible. So no matter who you are, if you stand up for what is right and what is truth, you are in danger, no matter what country you're in.
He was in my class at the fall.
I
Yes,
read that.
he was in your class at the time.
And you were an alum.
I graduated from DePaul, and we also have Julian. I can't remember that's his first or last name. He was the black professor that invented some kind of antibiotic or some kind of treatment. What was it?
That's right. He was a pioneer chemist.
Pioneer
He was a
chemist.
biochemist.
And I'm trying to think what the thing was that he
I believe it was prednisone or one of those.
steroid treatments, something like that. Whatever it was, I was just reading about it. So, and DePaul is still there. So,
Greencastle.
Greencastle, Indiana. Yes. All right. Anything else? Yes, Kenny.
3 weeks ago, we were blessed with another great-granddaughter.
Oh, all right.
And sometime between now and another 2 weeks, another one is going along. So the family's growing a bit.
Yeah, family is multiplying like rabbits. Good. Excellent to hear. And hopefully everybody is healthy and stays healthy, with the added danger of the virus being around. This is a terrible time to be trying to increase the population. Okay, I run out of candles, but you all will light one in your mind for those. They're over there. For all the hopes, dreams, fears, terrors that you hold deep in your heart that you are unable to share with us, feel free to share them in prayer, and we will support you in prayer. Okay, the message is the surprising science of happiness. And this is a tobacco barn, and this is from the South, basically Kentucky. I think in southern Ohio they had some tobacco. It's basically set up not for storage of machinery or livestock, although I'm sure they used it when the tobacco season was over. But they would put the tobacco on long rods and string it up to dry. And that's why you will see these kind of tobacco sheds, which were not, I don't think any of them were ever painted or looked nice. I've never seen pictures of them being fancy. It was just something that kind of sprung up over the South. So, another regional type of barn. The surprising science of happiness. When you have 21 minutes to speak, 2 million years seems like a really long time. But evolutionarily, 2 million years is nothing. And yet, in 2 million years, the human brain has nearly tripled in mass, going from 1¼ pound brain of our ancestors, Homo habilis, to the almost 3-pound meatloaf that everybody here has between their ears. What is it about a big brain that nature was so eager for every one of us to have? Well, it turns out when brains triple in size, they don't just get 3 times bigger, they gain new structures. And one of the main reasons our brain got so big was because it got a new part called the frontal lobe, particularly a part called the prefrontal cortex. What does a prefrontal cortex do for you that should justify the entire architectural overhaul of the human skull in the blink of an evolutionary eye? Well, it turns out the prefrontal cortex does lots of things. But one of the most important things it does is it's an experienced simulator. Pilots practice in flight simulators so they don't make real mistakes in planes. Human beings have this marvelous adaptation that they can actually have experiences in their heads before they try them out in real life. This is a trick that none of our ancestors could do, and that no other animal can do quite like we can. It is a marvelous adaptation. It is up there with opposable thumbs, standing upright, and language as one of the things that got our species out of the trees and into the shopping malls. All of you have done this. Ben & Jerry's doesn't have liver and onion ice cream, and it's not because they whipped up some and tried it and went yuck. It's because without leaving your armchair, you can simulate the flavor and say yuck before you make it. Let's see how your experience simulators are working. Let's just run a quick diagnostic before I proceed with the rest of the talk. Here are two different futures that I invite you to contemplate. You can try to simulate them and tell me which one you might prefer. One of them is winning the lottery. This is about $314 million. This is an old, now it's like 500 million. It's unbelievable. And the other is becoming paraplegic. Just give it a moment of thought. You probably don't feel like you even need a moment of thought. Interestingly, there are data on the two groups of people, data on how happy they are. And this is exactly what you expected, isn't it? But these aren't the data. I made these up. These are the data. You failed the pop quiz and you're hardly 5 minutes into the lecture. Because the fact is that a year after losing the use of their legs and a year after winning the lotto, lottery winners and paraplegics are equally happy with their lives. Don't feel too bad about failing that first pop quiz, because everybody fails all of the pop quizzes all the time. The research that my laboratory has been doing, that economists and psychologists around the country have been doing, has revealed something really quite startling to us. Something we call the impact bias, which is the tendency for the simulator to work badly, for the simulator to make you believe that different outcomes are more different than, in fact, they actually are. From field studies to laboratory studies, we see that winning or losing an election, gaining or losing a romantic partner, getting or not getting a promotion, passing or not passing a college test, on, have far less impact, less intensity, and much less duration than people expect them to have. A recent study, and this almost floors me, a recent study showing how major life traumas affect people suggests that if it happened over 3 months ago, with only a few exceptions, it has no impact whatsoever on your happiness. Why? Because happiness can be synthesized. Sir Thomas Browne wrote in 1642, "I am the happiest man alive. I have that in me that can convert poverty to riches, adversity to prosperity. I am more invulnerable than Achilles. Fortune hath not one place to hit me." What kind of remarkable machinery does this guy have in his head? Well, it turns out it's precisely the same remarkable machinery that all of us have. Human beings have something that we might think of as psychologically immune system, a system of cognitive processes, largely non-conscious, that help us change our views of the world so that we can feel better about the worlds in which we find ourselves. Like Sir Thomas, you have this machine. Unlike Sir Thomas, you seem not to know it. We synthesize happiness, but we think happiness is a thing to be found. Now, you don't need me to give you too many examples of people synthesizing happiness, I suspect, although I'm going to show you some experimental evidence. You don't have to look very far for evidence. I took a copy of the New York Times and tried to find some incidences of people synthesizing happiness. Here are 3 guys synthesizing happiness. I am better off physically, financially, mentally. I don't have 1 minute's regret. It was a glorious experience. I believed it turned out the best. Who are these characters and why are they so happy? The first one is Jim Wright. Some of you are old enough to remember he was the chairman of the House of Representatives, and he resigned in disgrace when this young Republican named Newt Gingrich found out about a shady book deal that he had done. He lost everything. The most powerful Democrat in the country lost everything. He lost his money, he lost his power. What does he have to say all these years later about it? I am so much more better off physically, financially, mentally, and in almost every other way. What other way would there be to be better off? Vegetably, minerally, animally, he's pretty much covered them all. Maurice Bickham is somebody you've never heard of. Maurice Bickham uttered those words upon being released. He was 78 years old. He'd spent 37 years in the Louisiana State Penitentiary for a crime he did not commit. He was ultimately released for good behavior halfway through his sentence. What did he have to say about his experience? I don't have 1 minute's regret. It was a glorious experience. Glorious? This guy's not saying they were some nice guys, they had a gym. Glorious, a word we usually reserve for something like a religious experience. Harry S. Langerman uttered these words. He's someone you might have known but didn't, because in 1949 he read a little article in the paper about a hamburger stand owned by the two brothers named McDonald. And he thought, that's a really neat idea. So he went to find them. They said, we can give you a franchise on this for $3,000. Harry went back to New York, asked his brother, an investment banker, to loan him $3,000, and his brother's immortal words were, you idiot, nobody eats hamburgers. He wouldn't lend him the money. Of course, 6 months later, Ray Kroc had exactly the same idea. It turns out, people do eat hamburgers, and Ray Kroc, for a while, became the richest man in America. And finally, some of you recognize this young photo of Pete Best, who was the original drummer for the Beatles, until they, sent him out on an errand and snuck away and picked up Ringo on a tour. Well, in 1994, when Pete Best was interviewed, yes, he's still a drummer, and yes, he's a studio musician, he had this to say, I'm happier than I would have been with the Beatles. Okay, there's something important to be learned about these people, and it is the secret of happiness. Here it is, finally to be revealed. First, accrue wealth, power, and prestige, and then lose it. Second, spend as much of your life in prison as you possibly can. Third, make someone else really, really rich. And finally, never ever join the Beatles. Yeah, that's right, because when people synthesize happiness, as these gentlemen seem to have done, we all smile at them because we kind of roll our eyes and say, yeah, right, you never really wanted the job. Or yeah, right, you really didn't have much in common with her, and you figured that out just before she threw the engagement ring in your face. We smirk because we believe that synthetic happiness is not of the same quality as what we might call natural happiness. What are these terms? Natural happiness is what we get when we get what we wanted. Synthetic happiness is what we make when we don't get what we wanted. And in our society, we have a strong belief that synthetic happiness is an artificial, inferior kind. Why do we have that belief? It's very simple. What kind of economic engine would keep churning if we all believed that not getting what we wanted to make us happy is getting it? With all apologies to my friend Matthew Richgert, a shopping mall full of Zen monks is not going to be particularly profitable because they don't want stuff enough. I want to suggest to you that synthetic happiness is every bit as real and enduring as the kind of happiness you stumble upon when you get exactly what you were aiming for. Now, I'm a scientist, so I'm going to do this not with rhetoric, but by marinating you in a little bit of data. Let's first show you as an experimental paradigm that's used to just demonstrate the synthesis of happiness among regular old folks. This isn't mine, it's a 50-year-old paradigm called the free choice paradigm. It's very simple. You bring in, say, 6 objects, and you ask the subject to rank them from the most to the least liked. In this case, because the experiment uses them, they are Monet prints. Everybody ranks these Monet prints from the one they like the most to the one they like the least. Now we give you a choice. We happen to have some extra prints in the closet, and we're going to give you one as your prize to take home. We happen to have number 3 and number 4. We tell the subject, this is a bit of a difficult choice because neither one is preferred strongly to the other, but naturally people tend to pick number 3 because they liked it a little better than number 4. Sometime later, it could be 15 minutes or 15 days, the same stimuli are put before the subject and the subject is asked to re-rank the stimuli. Tell us how much you like them now. What happens? Watch as happiness is synthesized. This is the result that's been replicated over and over and over again. You're watching happiness be synthesized. Would you like to see it again? Happiness. The one I got is really better than I thought. The other one I didn't get sucks. That is the synthesis of happiness. Now, what's the right response to that? Yeah, right. Now, here's the experiment we did, and I hope this is going to convince you that, yeah, right was not the right response. We did this experiment with a group of patients who had anterograde amnesia. These are hospitalized patients. Most of them have Korsakoff syndrome, a polyneurotic psychosis. Amnesia is when you forget everything that you knew. They drank way too much, and they can't make new memories. They remember their childhood, but if you walk in and introduce yourself and then leave the room, when you come back, they don't know who you are. We took our Monet prints to the hospital, and we asked these patients to rank them from the one they liked the most, the one they liked the least. Then we gave them the choice between number 3 and number 4. Like everybody else, they said, gee, thanks, doc, that's great. I could use a new print. I'll take number 3. We explained we would have number 3 mailed to them. We gathered up our materials, and we went out of the room and counted to a half hour. Back in the room, we say, hi, we're back. And the patients, bless them, say, doc, I'm sorry, I have memory problems. That's why I'm here. If I met you before, I don't remember. Really, Jim, you don't remember? And I was just here with the Monet prints? Sorry, doc, I just don't have a clue. No problem, Jim. All I want you to do is rank these for me from the one you like the most, the one you like the least. What do? First, let's check and make sure they're really amnesiac. We asked these amnesiac patients to tell us which one they owned and which one they chose the last time, which one is theirs. And what we find is amnesiac patients just guess. These are normal controls where if I did this with you, all of you would know which print you chose. But if I do this with amnesiac patients, they don't have a clue, they can't pick their print out of a lineup. Here's what normal controls do. They synthesize happiness, right? This is the change that is liking score. They change from the first time they ranked it to the second time they ranked. Normal controls show that that was the magic I showed you. Now I'm showing it to you in graphical form. The one I own is better than the one I thought. The one I didn't own, the one I left behind, is not as good as I thought. Amnesiacs do exactly the same thing. Think about this result. These people like better the ones they own, but they don't even know they own it. Yeah, right is not the right response. What these people did when they synthesized happiness is they really truly changed their affective, hedonic, aesthetic reactions to that poster. They're not just saying because they own it, because they don't know they own it. When psychologists show you bars, you know they are showing you the averages of lots of people. And yet we all have a psychological immune system, this capacity to synthesize happiness, and some of us do this trick better than others. In some situations allow us to do it more effectively than other situations do. It turns out that freedom, the ability to make up your mind and change your mind, is also the friend of natural happiness, because it allows you to choose among those delicious futures and find the one that you could most enjoy. But freedom to choose, to change, to make up your mind is the enemy of synthetic happiness, and I'm going to show you why. Dilbert already knows, of course. Dogbert's tech support, how may I abuse you? My printer prints a blank page after every document. Why complain about getting free paper? Free? Are you just giving me my own paper? Look at the quality of free paper compared to your lousy regular paper. Only a fool or a liar would say they look the same. Now that you mention it, it does seem a little silkier. What are you doing? I'm helping people accept things they cannot change. Indeed. The psychologically immune system works best when we are totally stuck, when we're trapped. This is the difference between dating and marriage. You go out on a date with a guy and he picks his nose and you don't go out on another date. You marry to a guy and he picks his nose, he has a heart of gold, don't touch that fruitcake. You find a way to be happy with what's happened. Now what I want to show you is that people don't know this about themselves, and not knowing this can work to our supreme disadvantage. Here's an experiment we did at Harvard. We created a black and white photography course. We allowed students to come in and learn how to use a darkroom. We gave them cameras. We went around the campus. They took 12 pictures of their favorite professors, their dorm room, their dog. and all the other things they wanted to have Harvard memories of. You can have dogs at Harvard? That's interesting. They bring us the camera, we make up contact sheets, they figure out which of the 2 best pictures. We now spend 6 hours teaching them about darkrooms, and they blow the 2 of them up. They have 2 gorgeous 8x10 glossies of meaningful things to them, and we say, which one would you like to give up? I have to give one up? Yes, we need one as evidence of the class project, so you have to give me one. You'll have to make a choice. You get to keep one, and I get to keep one. Now, there are 2 conditions in this experiment. In one case, the students are told, well, you know, if you want to change your mind, I'll always have the other one here in the next 4 days before I actually mail it to headquarters. Yeah, headquarters. Now, I'll be glad to swap it out with you. In fact, I'll come to your dorm room, just give me an email. Better yet, I'll check with you. If you ever want to change your mind, it's totally returnable. The other half of the students are told exactly the opposite. Make your choice. By the way, the mail is going out, gosh, in like 2 minutes to England. Your picture will be winging its way over the Atlantic. You will never see it again. Half the students in each of these conditions are asked to make predictions about how much they're going to come to like the pictures that they keep and the picture they leave behind. Other students are just sent back to their little dorm rooms and are measured over the next 3 to 6 days on their satisfaction with the pictures. Look at what we find. First of all, here's what the students think is going to happen. They think they're going to maybe come to like the picture they chose a little more than the one they left behind. But these are not statistically significant differences. It's a very small increase. It doesn't matter much whether they were in the reversible or irreversible condition. Wrong-o. Bad simulators. Because here's what really happened. Both right before the swap and 5 days later, people who are stuck with that picture, who have no choice, who can never change their mind, like it a lot. And people who are deliberating, should I return it? Have I gotten the right one? Maybe this isn't a good one. Maybe I left a good one. They've killed themselves. They don't like their picture. In fact, even after every opportunity to swap has expired, they still don't like their picture. Why? Because the reversible condition is not conducive to the synthesis of happiness. So here's the final piece of this experiment. We bring a whole new group of naive Harvard students and we say, you know, we're doing a photography course and we can do it one of 2 ways. We could do it so that when you take the 2 pictures, you have 4 days to change your mind, or we're doing another course where you can take the 2 pictures and you make up your mind right away. And you can never change it. Which would you like to be in? Duh. 66% of the students, 2/3, prefer to be in the course where they have the opportunity to change their mind. Hello? 66% of the students choose to be in the course in which they will ultimately be deeply dissatisfied with their picture choice because they do not know the conditions under which synthetic happiness grows. The Bard said everything best, of course. That's B. Shakespeare. He's making my point here, and he's making it hyperbolically. 'Tis nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. 'Tis nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. It's nice poetry, but it can't exactly be right. If there's nothing good or bad, is it really the case that gallbladder surgery and a trip to Paris are the same thing? That seems like a one-question IQ test. They can't be exactly the same thing. In more turgid prose, but closer to the truth, was the father of modern capitalism, Adam Smith. And he said this is worth contemplating. The great source of both the misery and disorders of human life seem to arise from overrating the difference between one permanent situation and another. Some of these situations may, no doubt, deserve to be preferred to others, but none of them can be deserved to be pursued with that passionate ardor which drives us to violate the rules of either prudence or of justice, or to corrupt the future tranquility of our minds, either by shame from the remembrance of our own folly or by remorse for the horrors of our own injustice. In other words, yes, some things are better than others. We would have preferences that lead us into one future over another, but when these preferences drive us too hard and too fast because we have overrated the difference between these futures, we are at risk. When our ambition is bounded, it leads us to work joyfully. When our ambition is unbounded, it leads us to lie, to cheat, to steal, to hurt others, to sacrifice things of real value. When our fears are bounded, we're prudent, we're cautious, we're thoughtful. When our fears are unbounded and overblown, we're reckless, we're cowardly. The lesson I want to leave you with from these data is that our longings and our worries are both, to some degree, overblown, because we have within us the capacity to manufacture the very commodity we are constantly chasing when we choose experience. Thoughts? A very in-depth study of what happiness is, and some that is intuitively still hard to grasp. It said, even though we've explained and went through the data, I'm sure it's still hard to say, boy, if I had a choice, I'd be happier than if I didn't have a choice. So something to think about. Sometimes life does not give us choices, and we learn to find happiness in that. Sometimes we have too many choices, and we can't figure out which one we want to make, and it leaves us kind of in a stew. Okay. Time for the offering. This is Fish Sunday. I told you the plate is there. And this is Fish Sunday for those in need by their own lights. We proceed not by algorithm or qualification, but from a spirit of generosity that seeks to share and reproduce the better bits of being human. We give not to the deserved, but to open ourselves to being deserving. As usual, feel free to drop something in the plate. If you need something, take it out. And if you need something from the Wide Church, please call us or text us or let any of us know. We're more than willing to help if we can. This is, for those of you, I'm sure you know, this is a freestall barn. This is what barns are like now in the modern dairy. The cows can only get in, although there are a few, usually Jerseys, that will back in and crap in the wrong end of the thing, so you got to scoop it out. But if you notice, all the hind ends are hanging out over the gutter, so all the manure goes out there, so they have a nice, clean, soft, dry, either sawdust or chopped straw to lay in. And you can see on the back, this one isn't actually an advanced one. You can see the board going across the back. That's an automatic cleaner that just kind of moves slowly along the thing and keeps it clean. And the more primitive ones, like we had, you had to take a tractor and a blade and scrape it 2 or 3 times a day to keep it clean. So our closing hymn is 144. Now is the time approaching, and it meshes perfectly with our presentation. Oh, sweet anticipation, it cheers the watchers on to pray and hope and labor till all our work is done. So let's see if you can synthesize your happiness. Our closing words, let me go back to that one. Anybody know where this is? Malabar Farm at Mansfield. The home of Louis Bromfield. If you're probably under 70, you don't have any idea who Louis Bromfield was. He was a famous writer in the 40s, 30s, and 40s. Wrote lots of novels, particularly about India. He also, with his profits from that, he bought this farm in central Ohio, which was ravaged. This is in the 30s by people who had no idea how to farm. They plowed straight up and down the hills all times of the year. All the topsoil washed away. It left ruts like 2 feet deep. Unbelievably, they've got pictures of the ruts there. And he used modern farming practices, cover crops, manure, rotation of crops, and brought that farm back to life. And because he was a famous Hollywood writer and wrote screenplays, he also had some important friends. Remember I mentioned Humphrey Bogart? Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall were married in this house. That's where their marriage occurred. And it is, in those days, it was considered a mansion, but it's like a mansion you would find here in New Madison, like one of the bigger houses in New Madison. Really tiny little rooms all over the place, all broken up. So if you can imagine Hollywood stars getting married in the middle of Ohio in a tiny little house like this. But Malabar Farm State Park is still there. It's worth a trip. It's about probably an hour and a half. It's a little bit past Columbus. They've got an actual working farm, working barn. You can tour the house. You can see where they were married. They have a spring house where they sell vegetables and fruits raised from the farm. Really interesting. And they have a camping thing. If you have a camper, you can go there and camp. So it's a really interesting place to go. every spring except for the last year, they have a horse plowing contest where wranglers from all around the area bring their draft horses and they plow in the fields. That's a pretty amazing sight too, to see like 10 or 20 teams of horses and donkeys and mules plowing. Okay, I'm kind of throwing all this stuff in. Whoop, wrong way. And this is, anybody recognize this? You can't see because of the mist, but the name is on the little barn in the middle there, Young's Jersey Dairy. That is another actually working farm. That's only at Yellow Springs, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's not actually in Yellow Springs. But you can actually go and see, I think. This is the parlor barn, freestall barn. Only this is not a freestall, this is what they call a tie stall. These cows stay in here during the day. You can see the collars on them. And then they each have their own stall. They eat and they get milked right there. They bring the milkers along. They don't have a parlor and they milk them right there. And then they turn it into ice cream. And at Young's Jersey Dairy, you can buy Jersey ice cream cakes, all kinds of snacks. And I just read, because of the virus, they used to have a really nice restaurant there, a really nice restaurant. Because of the limitation in seating and everything, I don't think they said they're not opening the restaurant again, which is really a shame. It's too bad. They still have catering, and they still have their little snack shop where you can buy snacks and ice cream and that thing. And you can also get pumpkins and take tours, farm wagon rides and that kind of things. And you can just look at the cattle, which is a chance for people nowadays to see what farming is really like, to get up hands-on where you can see the jerseys close enough. Okay, let's see. Our closing hymn is, we got 144, and our closing words are 685 in your hymn book. What we call a beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from, and we shall not cease from exploration, and from the ends of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. T.S. Eliot. You've got to read through that 2 or 3 times for it to make sense, but it actually does make sense. Okay, our postlude is, I'll see you again, no coward. Excellent. Thank you, Lloyd. Where would we be without music? Not a very happy place. I don't think I could synthesize happiness without music. That's the end of our service at First Universalist of New Madison. Hope you have a safe week. Keep up your precautions. If you need help getting a vaccination slot, let us know. We'd be happy to help. We will see you hopefully